but Swtor is not a hardcore endgame game. Like, if we're just being perfectly honest, like, it's not. It's more of an RPG than it is an MMO. And I think Josh Hayes was just talking about this, where Swtor is an RPG that happens to be online, right? You're not going to get the same level of support for your multiplayer functions compared to some other games, which are really all about grinding that end game. Swtor is a lovely set of 8 class stories, a perfectly fine Knight's arc, and then not much else afterwards. Unfortunately, the endgame scene is so terribly small that it's hard for people to break into it. This is going to be kind of heresy. Let's talk about WoW really quickly. All right, World of Warcraft has tens of thousands of players queuing for every single form of content at all times. And so what that means is that there's always going to be people that are playing at your level in order to hop into the endgame. And so, like, ranked PvP, if you are dog shit at ranked PvP, at 2s or 3 in WoW, there's pops that are going to be people that are relatively at your level. It'll pop if you queue from. And so you're never sitting here queuing into 2s, going up against fucking turbo virgins that have been doing nothing but queuing rank for the past 10 years and are going to stomp you every game. With Star Wars ranked PvP, there's a good core of like 100 people that really liked ranked PvP. And they're all fucking dorks, like myself, who have been doing it for a while. And so jumping into ranked PvP is really difficult because the learning curve is so steep. Because the entire player population that plays ranked PvP is living up here, and there's no one to help guide people into that lower bracket. Which is what I'm trying to do with a lot of my content, is like, for the people that want to climb the mountain, here's how you do it. Right? Here's the basic steps of things you need to know in order to get into that higher echelon. Because we don't have the luxury of like a WoW player base where you're going to get pops every 15 seconds with people that are relatively at your level. It'll pop if you queue prom. Told you. And yes, broken. And that leads me into my essentially the same point about rating, is that there's not a lot of new NIM teams that form because there's not enough players that are interested enough to really pursue that. And the players that are already in that top echelon, most of them just want to raid with their friends. And it can be hard to break into those inner circles of like the NIM rating community just coming from nothing. You have to have like an in, you have to meet people, you have to make good impressions, and you have to like develop a reputation kind of on your own in order to get invites to those like higher echelon servers. Whereas in other games like Final Fantasy or WoW, there are so many people looking to get into it that you can find groups a lot easier, and there's not that cliquey sense of you're on the outside, you don't have access to enough people who have the game knowledge and the experience to really dive into endgame PvE, right? And so the player base is so condensed, and it makes it very difficult to not have that happen, right? There's not enough people in the pool looking to do that content to really like squeeze the lemon for all of its juice. There is the winners and the people that are on the inside, and then there's people looking in. And there is not a good ramp to bring them up. And I don't have a solution for that. I mean, we can brainstorm solutions if you want. You could host community events. You could, for like, if we were doing like a PvP event, we want to get people involved in PvP more. If Swtor sat down with us, because Cog and I do these tournament events, so I like once every 6 months, and Prom, I don't mean to leave you out, Prom. So Sparky, Swtor, if they invested in like promoting their own endgame content, it becomes a lot more of like, oh, I would be interested in climbing that mountain, right? Where right now it's just Cog and I, who is like I feel we could do a pretty good job, and we reach a sizable amount of people. Cog, Prum, and I. Okay, Prum. Okay, I'm not leaving you out. We host our own tournament. We feel like we do a pretty good job. We get engagement, but it's all engagement. I say all. It's 95% engagement from people who are already on that upper tier, right? Like, I know I have like a more general audience than a lot of people do, but I feel like if you're here in a Swtor Twitch stream, you're probably living towards the top of this echelon, right? You're not really on the outside looking in. You are invested enough to want to see more, but we don't reach the people who are looking to climb the ladder as much, which is what as I said, I'm trying to do that with my own like YouTube stuff. I agree with all of that. But if we flip that on its head and we start promoting, doing another tournament, we're working on it. I promise we're working on it. If we start promoting Endgame PvE and Endgame PvP to the more casual audience or people that are like, oh, that would be cool. For example, if we were able to host a tournament on Swtor's stream, it's pretty cool. Like that's an easy way to show off high endgame play in a more friendly environment than what your average ranked PvP Twitch stream might be. So, or if they promoted the SFRC race where they had that big pool of people, that was super cool. Like SFRC is super cool. I have fun with that every single time they put it on. But when they stream it, it's only the fucking super dorks that really enjoy it. Sparky Monkey, that's the fat fucking 13 raid, bro. Thanks, bro. Gracias. How you doing, my guy? Hope your stream's doing well. Shout out, Sparky Marky. Sorry, Sparky. I called you Sparky Monkey. Sparky Marky. Thanks for the fat raid, bro. We're busy talking about how to make Swtor appealing to more casual players. So if we had a platform like Swtor's Twitch, or even like thanks, dude. I appreciate that. I'm glad that you enjoy it. How to make Swtor appealing? Rebounds. See, I don't. It's no. Don't fire all Bioware stuff. Higher. Like, bring on people. And unfortunately, this is all speculation. All right. I have no insider information about anything that's going on with BioWare and their relationship with EA. If I'm EA and I'm looking at Swtor, it is a cash cow. All right? It exists. It lives in its own little section. You make the most money off of Swtor by funneling cartel market items and then bringing in new players who want to see the Swtor RPG. They don't really make money by investing a whole bunch of money into development so that people can rebalance the game to, munch on the top end players. That's just not what the game is designed to do. It's not what they want it to be. And so if you're going to be BioWare and justify hiring 30 people to make this game really good, it's a hard sell to EA because they see it as a cash cow. Like, why would we invest more money in this when this is already making a whole bunch of money? So, I don't know. Unfortunately, most race team has gotten, we wanted to feel similar, we weren't at skill level needed. Friends wanted to come eat. Exactly. And so, Broken Heart, you're running into the same issue where, like, there's the people up here that are doing really solid, that are, like, really invested and really good. And then there's people down here. And it's hard to find a group that's willing to make that climb together. So, I don't know. It's a really unique problem that they have, and I don't have a good solution for it. I think if I'm EA, let the Swtor thing just kind of run. You don't have to put that many resources towards it. People will come in because it's a Star Wars RPG. They get bored of their WoWs and their Final Fantasy. They're like, oh yeah, great. I can go play Swtor. I'll go sub for 2 months. I'll level a tune. I'll buy a cool cartel market item, and then I'll call it a day. That's where they're making most of their money from. they're not making most of their money off of people like me who would really like to see a return of ranked PvP and a new Warzone. I don't think that's where they get their money. Or a way to make a lot of cash getting rating. Yes. And that comes from not having enough people in the player base to create that learning curve. Because right now, I don't want to... I have the benefit of 10 years of playing this game. I know a lot about this game. It's kind of a problem. However, if you just hit 70, raise your hand if you just hit 70, and you wanted to go and get into NIM rating, how far up do you have to look in order to find someone that's gonna not look down to you, right? There is a sense of not wanting to feel like the fucking moron at the table. Let me give you an example. I used to work at Argonne National Labs. I can't tell you much about what it did there. What it is, it's a nuclear power plant research facility funded by the government. All right? That's about all I can tell you. I was the dumbest fucking person in the room every time I walked in. All right? Because when you're talking with nuclear scientists, you feel like a fucking dum-dum. All right? And it is not fun to try to get a nuclear scientist to explain to you what the fuck they do. All right? It makes you feel like a moron. And even when you are relatively decent, it can be kind of awkward to be the dumb one in the room, right? I'm worried that the same might happen for new people at 80 when they get there and then they walk and hey, I'd like to get into NIM rating. And then fucking Sov shows up and is like, all right, it's time for you to call salvos on Apex. All right, you go in and find the ability ID, plug it into your star parse, and then call it out every single time it's coming. Oh, and don't stand in circles, and then just kind of figure it out from there, right? What the fuck did you just say? I don't know. So, yeah, I don't know. It's sad to think about. It really is. I don't revel in this conversation because I like Swtor. I still think that Swtor has probably the best PvP platform on the market. And maybe not in its current state with the way that Fury is running around, but remove the fellow splice genes, and I think it's a good system. I think that the ranked PvP system is fine in theory if there was more population. I think that Regs PvP is very fun. I think that Swtor's PvP is probably the best on the market in terms of MMOs, right? But you need to have a steady flux of content in order to actually keep people around. Because there's not enough to do anymore, right? There's just not. I log in and I am bored, which is very sad because I don't know. I log in and I don't have the drive to go explore new things. Because I've done them all. You fucking man on the same mechanic. Knew as a player, I learned a lot. Then when Swtor has died because of yeah, and Swtor's not the most complicated game in the world, but when the gap between the veterans who've been in here for 10 years and the people who are just getting into it is so wide, the new players get bullied in terms of PvP, in terms of trying to find raid slots. It's just not.